Welcome to the Sweet Tooth Way, where I believe in working with what you have. I'm going to be doing today's tutorial on a wedding cake. Let me just start by saying it came out really well. I'm working on the top tier, which is a 6-inch 4-layer, and this is a fruit cake, the Caribbean traditional fruit cake wedding cake. And I decided that instead of doing a smooth finish buttercream, I'm going to take my little tool that you see here, and I'm going to add a texture to the buttercream. I have fancied that whenever I'm having issues getting a really smooth finish, the easiest way to offset that is by adding some texture to the buttercream. You can use many tools that are right within your home to add a nice pattern or design, or if you have one of those scrapers with a pattern on it, then go for it. But I was using this tool because I like the imprint that it puts on the buttercream, and it's also super easy. So I love to see stencils on cake, but to be totally honest, it's so nerve-wracking. I'm so sorry. It's very nerve-wracking at times, but over a period of time, when you get used to it, you will know what works best for you. So for example, whenever I'm stenciling a cake, I always make sure that I have all my tools handy right beside me. This is my spatula, some pins to hold the stencil in place, my buttercream, and also my scraper. Anything that you find that it makes it easiest for you to work faster, even better. A tip that I'd also like to make sure that I share with you is before you attempt to stencil on a cake, make sure the cake has been chilled for at least 2 hours, not in the freezer, okay? Make sure you've chilled it in the refrigerator, because you don't want the temperature difference between the freezer and inside of your home to cause your buttercream to start sweating, and we just don't want that. All right, so as you can see, I'm going to now peel off the stencil. Everything came out really well, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to keep repeating this until this bottom tier cake is finished with the stencil imprint being put on it, or we can call it an embroidery if you want to get all fancy. So this bottom tier is a 10-inch cake with 2 layers, and it's also fruit cake. If you've never heard about fruit cake, Caribbean people love a really nice smooth fruit cake. When it comes on to the structure of a cake, especially when you're doing a 2-tiered cake, it is super important. What I do to make sure that I create an outline for the top tier of the cake, I use the same size board as the cake, as the size of the top tier cake. In this case, it's a 6-inch cake. I so apologize for my mistakes as I go along, but I'm just keeping it real. So by using the same size board as the cake, which is 6-inch, I've created an outline, and with that outline, I know exactly where I would like to place my dowels. I prefer to use wooden dowels because in my opinion, they provide so much more support than the plastic dowels. So by cutting the first size, I'm then going to use that one to cut the other 3 or 4 dowels that I'm going to use. In this case, I'm not going to be putting a dowel into the center of the cake, and you will eventually see why. So I'm only going to be using 4 dowels, and I'm going to go ahead and place them within the circumference of that outline I created using the 6-inch board. Once I have completely placed in all of my dowels, I can then think about stacking my top tier on. Do not please, especially if you're a beginner, don't make that mistake and not have sufficient dowels in your bottom tier to support the top tier cake. By using some buttercream, you can add it to cover pretty much the top of each dowel, and that's just going to add as a little adhesive or glue for the board for the top tier. It's not exactly necessary, but it is helpful. Now, this is my method for stacking cakes that I have adopted over the past 5 years. I've tried many other ways, but let me tell you, this works really well. So by placing a dowel into the center of the top tier, it makes it so much more easier for me to lift it and place it onto the bottom tier of the cake, as you can see. So the top tier, once again, is a 6-inch and the bottom tier is a 10-inch. And with that very same dowel that's right there now, I'm going to push that all the way down through both tiers of this cake, making it impossible for it to go anywhere. Okay, so this cake is super secured, and I use a little bit of buttercream just to cover up the top. Now it's time to add some beautiful roses to the cake. Before you add roses to the cake, make sure that you wrap them with maybe some plastic wrap before you stick them into the cake. I also like to use this little tool that you see me using here to poke a hole and then place the roses in, because sometimes when you try to just push the roses into the cake, the stems of the rose breaks, and we don't want that. So poke a hole and place your rose in, which also gives you a much more precise way to know exactly where you want to place your beautiful red roses. I decided to also add a beautiful sequence to this cake. It's not edible. I got it from one of our local stores here in Grand Cayman, and I decided to add this just to bring some more of the color, the red and white color of the wedding, into the cake. And let me tell you, as you can see, it is absolutely beautiful. Now, thank you so much for watching. I trust and hope that this video has been a great tutorial for you. I hope you've liked it, and I hope it will be super helpful for you for whenever you're doing the next 2-tiered cake. Please like and subscribe to this channel if you want to continue to see more in-depth tutorials like this from yours truly, Kamisha from Sweet Tooth Moist Cakes and Supplies.